Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Girly Nerd Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about all things pop culture, movies, TV, theme parks, all the fun things. I am your host, Marianne, aka the Girly Nerd, and tonight my guest is my good friend, Darin. He's been on the podcast multiple times already. I am very happy you are back on the podcast tonight because we are going to be discussing Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films.
Yep.
We are both big fans of these movies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Before we talk about that, just let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Well, we're still Nostalgia Cast is still going. We're in a little bit of a slump. It's just life and work and summer and the heat is getting in the way. So we're a little bit slow. We're still going through our 90s season. We just released Fear in Loathing in Las Vegas. We've recorded Mask of Zorro. So that one's coming out pretty soon. Out of Sight's coming out pretty soon. I'm not sure when this episode drops, if those episodes will be out. And then we've also got Back to Bluey that's still going strong. Me and my friend Rob are, again, the way that the world is, the way that everybody's clamping down, and it just feels like a huge weight. It's great being able to talk about a cartoon about anthropomorphic dogs that can teach you lessons about how to lighten up and how to treat life and have fun. So that's where we're just keeping on. I guess the train's still going on those two podcasts. So
okay, awesome. So we're going to talk about each of the three movies, but before that, I just want to talk about like our history with like how we first watched them and whatnot. Now, personally, so I didn't like grow up being like a comic book comic book movie person.
Mhm.
It's funny. I asked my mom, I'm like, did we go to see Batman 1989 in the movie theater? She's like, we must have. Because it's like I feel like I had a vague memory of it, but that is literally the only time I saw that movie, so I don't remember it. I will revisit that at some point, but so I saw like The Rocketeer, if you want to consider that kind of a comic book movie, and I'm pretty sure I saw The Phantom, which isn't good. But this first Spider-Man movie, that's the first time I remember going to the actively like going to the theater, being excited, like this looks like a fun movie, and really just loving it, just absolutely loving it. So I feel like these three movies were the first like comic book superhero movies that I just absolutely fell in love with. Now I'm guessing you were probably a little bit different. You're a little bit older. I know you love Batman. So what's like your story in comparison?
So we're just talking the first Spider-Man, right? And our experience with that. So I guess the big three superheroes, I'm not a huge comic book. I've read enough. I like to do enough research that if I'm in a conversation with somebody, I can like pick up the slack and actually know what I'm talking about or know what they're talking about instead of just, I don't know what you're saying, so let's move on to something else. I like to at least know about topics and things like that. So I didn't really read a lot of comic books, but the big three, Spider-Man, Batman, and Superman, those are the ones that I knew fairly well. And so, there's a whole history with this first Spider-Man, how it was like a Canon Films thing, which would have been awful. I know James Cameron had a crack at it. He had a scriptman. He's the one that came up. He was the originator of the organic web. So he's the one that came up with that idea. And then they incorporated it into this movie. And then if you have the comic book movies are weird because Superman 78 came out, and that's one of my defining films, and that got Superman, to me, it got it right. Like that's defined Superman, and in a lot of ways movies for me. And then Batman came out, and I was always disappointed in the Batman movies. Like when the first Batman came out, I wasn't fully aware of the character in full. I liked him obviously, but when he was killing people, that didn't register to me as bad. I remember watching the second Batman movie, and I watched with my cousin who was very heavy into comic books. And there's a part where Batman shoves a bomb down a circus guy's pants and throws him into a sewer and blows him up. And I remember laughing and loving it. And I looked over at my cousin, and my cousin was like shocked. He's like, he just killed that guy. And so we talked afterwards about how his idea of Batman was he never kills. And so to see him do that, and so that put me down a rabbit hole. And again, I just always felt like there was something missing from the Batman movies until Batman Begins came out. That's another story. But when Spider-Man came out, I think because Batman and Robin had killed the superhero genre for a little bit, nobody wanted to make comic book movies. A lot of stuff was canceled. And then they had X-Men that came out, which was good enough and X-Men was the first, as a superhero movie, it's kind of embarrassed to be a superhero movie. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like, they don't wear the colorful costumes. They wore like the black leather to be cool. And I get it, because they didn't want to go full on Batman and Robin and turn people off. They wanted to be more grounded. And I think the first X-Men works well enough that it started something. And by the time Spider-Man came out, I think Spider-Man, and people are going to disagree with me, I think this movie, the first movie in 2001, was the first comic book movie that really wasn't afraid to be what it was and dive in. It was very sincere. It's very earnest about what it is. I think that took a lot of people, it shocked a lot of people, right? But just it might skip, that's a long story to get where I want to go. But basically, opening weekend, I was in New York visiting family. It was my cousin, and not my cousin, my uncle was getting married, so we're out there visiting. We just had our firstborn. Tanner was just barely born, so I think he was about, he was 1 or 6 months. He was pretty young. And so we were out in New York, and Spider-Man opened, I think, on a Friday, and we heard that it made what, $114 million, which was like, whoa, that is the most any movie has made. And so it felt like a phenomenon. And so we went to my uncle's wedding, which was, and again, another sidebar, we went to New York, and this was the year after 9/11, obviously 2002. And so visiting Ground Zero, everything was very somber, right? My family was in, like I said, New York. I went there every summer to spend time with them. And so, and I've been to the World Trade Center. So to be there the year after, and just everybody's so morose. And I don't know if you remember, Marianne, but when 9/11 happened, it kind of brought everybody together, America wise, and made us kind of bond. And so anyway, so we went to Ground Zero, we went to my uncle's wedding in Boston, and then we were done with the wedding, and it was night, and we were like, well, what are we going to do? Like, I'm not just going to sit in the hotel like for the rest of the night. And so it was too dark to go sightseeing. And so I'm kicking myself. We went to go see Spider-Man in Boston. We'd never been to Boston before, Marianne. And instead of going to sightsee, we went to a theater. We spent time in a theater in Boston, that a theater that looks like any place else, right? There was no difference. So why would you go across the country just to go see a movie instead of, anyway? So we always kick ourselves for that, but it's like, it was dark. What were we supposed to do, right? But I tell you about that 9/11 thing, because when it comes to the point where Spider-Man is on the bridge and he's trying to save MJ and the kids in the tram, and all those people come to his rescue, and it's, you mess with Spidey, you mess with New York, you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. And I can't explain it to you. The theater, even though we're in Boston's close enough to Manhattan, right? The theater, there were people sobbing, there were people cheering. You could feel an electricity. And when they saved Spider-Man, the audience, I've never heard this, you've heard audiences cheer before, but they cheered in a way that it felt like cathartic for everybody. I can't explain it. And I know that's going to sound like hyperbole. It was not. I've never been in a theater and had an experience before where there was a communal reaction to a movie that got to us in a way where we were changed. And it's because of that I'm always going to have a special place for Spider-Man in my heart. And why every other Spider-Man, even the second one, which, spoilers, I think is maybe the best, the greatest live action comic book movie ever made, there's a special place that the first Spider-Man has for me that has never been equaled and probably can't ever be equaled. It was just, wow, it was such an experience, even though we were in a city that we'd never been before, and we decided to go see a movie. There was still that communal kind of an awesome experience that we had.
Yeah, and that moment's so powerful too. I don't,
especially if you know when it came out in the context, right? Yeah.
I don't remember my theater's reaction, but now that you said some of these other movies, though, I'm remembering. I'm like, oh yeah, I did see other stuff. Like, I know I saw the first Superman, but I was young. It's just like I just don't remember it very well. But it's like you see it like once, and I watched Lois and Clark. I saw the original, the Adam West Batman movie. I saw that. And I think I did see the first X-Men movie, but I don't remember like it leaving like a big impression on me, like loving it or anything like that. So, but Spider-Man, it's like, yeah, I got really into it, and it's one of a handful of movies that I went back more than once in the theater to see it. So I want to say there's maybe like 5 or 6 I've done that with, not that many. So, but I went back twice to see the first Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
So in regards to that first movie, because of when it came out, it makes those moments. I mean, I think they're good anyway, powerful. It's that sort of sense of community. You mess with Spider-Man, you mess with all of us. But it does add that layer of emotion to those moments. Right. That I think sometimes, like you said before, some of the younger generations don't connect with these movies as much. They weren't around for not. Oh, I'm
no. You're good. You're good. Let me
they
just ask you a question.
Weren't around for 9/11, or they were like a baby or something. So
yeah, it's like Pearl Harbor for us.
Experience that,
right?
It's just maybe it makes it more difficult to relate to. But if you did live through that, I remember it. Remember that morning very, very vividly, and being heartbroken, scared, and all the horrible things. So
yeah.
And so it's like that movie felt so hopeful and positive, and I mean, it's like, it's fantasy, but there was just this like American spirit to it that I really loved. But so first I want to talk about the cast.
Okay.
I think it's really well cast in every part. I really liked Tobey Maguire. I know he's a little old, but he looks young.
He's got a baby face, right?
He does have a baby face. Now, because I don't know the comic books that well, this was my frame of reference of how the character was supposed to be. So in my mind, Peter Parker is kind of dorky. He's really smart. He's bullied. But when he's Spider-Man, he's a little bit more confident, but it's not like so like drastically different that it's like ridiculous or something. And the difference is there when he's Spidey, but it's not like night and day. He's like, he's a little bit more sassy, and he, because, he has the powers and stuff, and he doesn't feel so useless anymore.
Well, it's the thing about wearing a mask. You can be anybody, right? You can be a completely different person. That's the appeal of Spider. Not only, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko created him as kind of because he had a bunch of sidekicks. You had Robin, all this stuff, and then Spider-Man himself was young enough that he could have been a sidekick, but he became the hero. And so that's the main appeal of Spider-Man, is that anybody can be him under the mask. Like it could be a person of color, it could be a woman, it could be a child, it could be anybody. And so when you're reading the comics, that's what you really like adore about Spider-Man. And you really, again, I don't know how the movie is very to me, it reads as Spider-Man. This was the Spider-Man that I know. It never makes a wrong step. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the Spider-Man that I know from a kid. I know people will disagree with me, and as I know it's not, but to me, it manages the tone and everything. So yeah, Tobey really nails the joy of putting on that mask and swinging around, and that part where he rescues Mary Jane, he can talk to her in a way that he couldn't talk to her before, and so I really like that about his performance.
And I really like Kirsten Dunst. I think she's good. I love the character. I get so mad when she is constantly ragged on. Yeah. And that's a very common thing I see now. And you've commented on it. I've commented on it on social media. I think she was great in the part. I'll get to the character in a minute, but I just want to go through the other cast members. Think James Franco was good. I know he sucks now. It really sucks. It really sucks when people you liked as an actor turn out to be not great people. But he's good in the part. I think his character is really interesting, and he does the layers of his character really well, because his character is not one note at all. And like I saw the other day, people were again comparing Harry to Ned, and we'll get into that. But I'm like, one's a fully fleshed out character and one's not. One's nicer for sure, but doesn't make him a more dynamic character. So
right, exactly.
I love the Aunt May and Uncle Ben. I think they're great.
Rosemary Harris and Cliff Robertson.
Every movie messes with the ages. I don't know what the most accurate. I think this worked. That they're a little bit older.
This is the Aunt May that I know from the comics. That is her.
Okay.
Rosemary Harris is her. Like the way that they make Sally Field and then later Marissa Tomei make her like a young hot Aunt May. It's a little bit weird for me because again I know her as an elderly woman, and again Rosemary Harris nails that.
I think she's wonderful. I mean, she has some of the best moments of the whole series.
She does. She's got a whopper in the second one.
Yeah. Love Cliff Robertson. He's a terrific actor.
Yeah.
And well, fun side note. So my dad does he's a professional artist, and he's done work for our local Air and Space Museum. And Cliff Robertson was a pilot, and he was one of the inductees one year. So my dad did a painting of Cliff Robertson. So
okay.
Yeah. So that was cool. So that's a little fun, like personal thing. But I'm a big fan of Gidget, and he was great in all those older movies, but he's wonderful.
Charlie, he was really good, and I remember watching that in school.
Yeah, he's wonderful as Uncle Ben. Obviously, he has the most important line in the movie.
Yeah, and he sells it. Yeah.
I know people only think of him, younger generations, they're like, they just think of him as Uncle Ben, but he's a terrific actor.
Yeah.
And then of course, Willem Dafoe is phenomenal. I mean, he's a phenomenal actor, and again, he plays off the layers of that character so well. He's not one note. He's very complex, and yes, it's over the top, but it works. I think
you kind of expect that from a villain around this time in a comic book movie, right?
So, do you have any other thoughts about all those other actors?
Like I said, Tobey Maguire's great. I know he gets a lot of flack today, especially because paparazzi follow him around and he gets upset and people are like, why are you getting so upset, bro? It's like, well, you try it sometime, right? So I get that.
He doesn't want to be photographed.
Yeah, it's like, stop it. Like these people on Twitter that sit on their computers all day and don't have any human interaction, like that doesn't even track.
How would you like it if someone did that to you? I wouldn't.
Yeah. Like be in your shoes. And it's the same thing again. We'll get into Mary Jane's character. I have a real problem with the way people react to that, and the way that, and Kirsten Dunst is great. If you hear her in interviews, like she's very like whatever, it doesn't affect.
Yeah, she's got a very good head on her shoulders. Yeah.
Right. Franco, I think is good. I think Franco maybe gets progressively worse. I think by the time the third one comes around, he overdoes it like a lot, right?
Yeah.
Again, Cliff Robertson, Rosemary Harris, very warm, and you really have to sell that. I know the writing is good enough that they sell Uncle Ben, and it has that great moment where he's like, I know I'm not your father, and Peter's like, well, stop pretending to be, and you can feel his heartbreak. And so when the whole thing comes around where he's murdered and Peter's just sitting there with him on the sidewalk, you can feel that pain, that they want to talk to each other and forgive each other, but they don't have the time, right? And so I think Robertson really sells what he can with what he has, if that makes any sense. And then going back to Willem Dafoe, I agree that these characters aren't one-dimensional, but I don't know if they're quite three-dimensional. I think my problem with the first Spider-Man is that it does good enough job, but especially when you compare it to the second one, which we'll get to, the second one makes everybody so three-dimensional in the situations that it's like a night and day. So when you're comparing them, especially, it's like, oh, Spider-Man does what it needs to do to get you to the place you need to go, but it doesn't go to that next level like a sequel will do, like a Superman 2 will do, or a Dark Knight will do, or an X-Men 2 will do, you know what I mean? Because they have to set up these characters and make it work. So Willem Dafoe, I think he has the chops, and again, he's got the dichotomy, right? You can tell that he's not in charge of his own mind, and I love that scene where he's arguing with himself in the mirror. That's great fun stuff, right? But at the end of the day, I think when you have Alfred Molina come in as Dr. Octopus, I think that's a much more fully realized version of it, if that makes sense. Because Willem Dafoe does great. All the role really requires is for him to cackle like a madman, and that's what you want Willem Dafoe for, right? You didn't even have to put him in a mask, and his face would be scary.
And he's scary, yeah.
Yeah, he's got facial expressions. But again, I don't mean to denigrate Willem Dafoe because he's great. I just think that this movie, from start to finish, it's like a two-dimensional comic book page where you get the comic book feel, but it's not quite it's like a 3-star movie out of a 3 out of 4-star movie. I don't know if that makes any, if that helps, but it does its
Sure.
job well enough, and all the actors, they're going to get a better chance to shine in the next one. But like I said, they do a great enough job where you feel everything that they're going through.
Well, one thing I do think though it does really good is all three of them, but I feel like they're action superhero movies, but I also feel like they're character movies.
Yes.
It's the action is never overdone, and you really get to know and understand who all the characters are, not just Peter, not just Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
And they do it in such an efficient way too. It's like really impressive.
Efficient. Yeah.
I mean, like to start with Peter, it's like when him and Mary Jane are having that conversation in the backyard, talking about where they want to go to school, and I'm going to go to the city, and you could see how embarrassed she is about her family, and you can hear them, and she's almost like embarrassed to tell him, I want to do acting, and he's just like pumping her up, because that's just who he is. He's kind, and he cares about her, and he sees her for who she really is. But at the same time, because he's insecure, he thinks he has to do these things to impress her.
Yeah, like
so, like, yeah.
Right.
So it's really interesting that scene when she's showing like who she really is when she's talking to him, and then it switches when she goes and sees the car. It's like she puts on her little happy mask.
The Flash, right?
Like, oh my God, it's so cute. When 2 seconds later she was so serious. And
right.
So he sees that change in her demeanor. It's like, well, that's what I need. And which isn't true at all.
Right.
And obviously he learns that, but I just thought that was like, and it's so quick. It's, what is that? Not even a minute long, that little moment. And
right.
And then, like with Harry, the first time you see him, when they're driving up to the museum, and he asks his father, like, or the driver, can we not get dropped off right here?
Don't call attention to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, that's just 20 seconds or something. And you're like, oh, I understand him. He's embarrassed about he's embarrassed about his wealth, and he doesn't want to be seen as different because he doesn't have a lot of friends. And I heard someone the other day, they go, it's interesting because someone in that position could be, in with the popular kids and be a big bully, and yet he chooses to be friends with Peter, who is relentlessly bullied. So it's like, Harry's not a bad guy. He's insecure like Peter, I think, in many ways, and wants his father's approval desperately. And when he sees Peter get it, he's jealous, and it's probably why he goes after Mary Jane. It's like, I don't think he's trying to be like a jerk and steal Peter's girl or something like that. It's like, well, I deserve something nice too, sort of,
Yeah.
If you're going to have my father's love, here, this girl likes me, so I'm going to try that. It's, sort of swapping out for the other.
Right.
So just, just little moments like that where you so quickly understand the characters. I just think that's really well done. And then the one you mentioned with Uncle Ben, because Cliff Robertson's such a good actor. Yeah, you see that pain on his face. And it's like he loves him like a son, but it's like, oh, that's a gut punch when you hear something like that. Now, is it known how long they've supposed to have been taking care of him?
I think Peter Parker's parents died when he was maybe 5 or 6. Maybe I'm getting that wrong, but he's been enough that Uncle Ben and Aunt May are his parents. Like, I don't think he remembers his parents as well. And so, they've got some good stuff in the other, like Sally Field has some good parts where it's like, why are you so like hell bent on finding out about your parents when I'm your parent, right? She had a great moment because you don't want to leave Sally Field like out in the dunes with nothing to do. But like character wise, if were you done talking about characters?
I
don't
just
want to
wanted
step on your toes.
the only other thing I was going to talk about was Willem Dafoe's character,
Okay,
because
let's talk about him first, and then I'll go back.
because it's really interesting. You could see he's not like some angel, obviously.
Right.
He has
not a
an
bad
edge.
guy.
He's not a bad guy, but
At
he has
all,
an
yeah.
edge to him. He's very reckless and impulsive, and it's like, to hell with it. I'm just going to try it myself.
Yeah.
But he's not evil. So it's kind of really sad what happens to him, that this stuff literally makes him insane and terrible.
Right.
And it's tragic. So and I also love that scene where he's arguing with himself, like he's like, I didn't do all these terrible things. What are you talking about? Get out of my head. And
right.
that's just played so well. And of course, Sam Raimi, who's the director. So what directed so well. So much of this movie is so like interestingly shot and staged and blocked, and there's so much of that.
Right.
But go ahead with what you were going to say.
Well, let me mention just Sam Raimi first. I know I'm a big Raimi fan because the Evil Dead movies were big for me as like a horror nerd, right stuff. And Evil Dead 2 is maybe the greatest horror comedy of all time. Well, maybe next to Bride of Frankenstein, but it's up there. So I love Sam Raimi. Darkman, I saw that in the theater, and that was his trial run for like a superhero movie. I think Darkman is great. It's one of those, it's up there with movies that aren't based on comic books but feel like they're based on comic books. So like Incredibles or RoboCop, stuff like that. I think Darkman is up there. But Raimi's style in this, he had a Spidey cam. So when Spidey's swinging around, that's an actual camera that's on wires that's swinging around, and it's very visceral, and it's something that I think it set the stage. So a lot of the other Spider-Mans will do it, but whenever I watch those, and they add stuff and make it better, whatever, but I think this is the one that defined that, right? I think there's so much style in here that and I'll mention this later, how I think the Spider-Mans are the closest we come to actual comic books in live action. I'll come back to that. But if we're going back on the actors and stuff like that, like, again, we talked about Toby. I think he really nails the golly gee shucks aspect of Peter, that we can see ourselves in him. And there's that with Uncle Ben, there's that part where he's just being a teenager. Like, we've all been through that, where your parents are like, look, I know you're going through some stuff, but you got to get a better head on your shoulders, man. And you don't want to hear that. You're trying to figure it out. And so when he lashes out at Uncle Ben, not only do you see Uncle Ben his heart shatter, but you can see Peter that he's gone too far and that he's hurt his uncle's feelings, but there's nothing he can do, right? Let's just move on. I got to get the car, right? You talk about the scene with Mary Jane. What I love about her arc in this is that she's abused, right? She's basically abused, whether verbally or physically. I'm not quite sure on the physical stuff, but verbally for sure she's abused.
Verbally for sure, right?
So she lashes out. The way she lashes out, she dates the popular boy. She wants to be the popular girl. So she dates Flash Thompson because that's going to get her the attention she thinks she needs. And then when they break up, there's that scene where Peter and Harry are talking, and again, it does the thing where Norman is showing more attention to Peter than he's showing to Harry. And so there is literally a shot where you see James Franco look over and he sees Mary Jane and Flash break up. And so that's when he makes his move. I know he's not vindictive about it, but I think in a way he's like, well, Peter is getting closer to my father. I'm a little bit jealous. I'll go after Mary. So there is a little bit of that. I don't think it's vindictive. But going back to Mary Jane, I love how she dates the popular guy, then she dates the rich guy, and then finally at the end, she wants to be with Peter, the person that loves her for who she is, not for who the person they think she is, right? So Peter, what I love about his character is I really think that he looks at Mary Jane as kind of up on a pedestal. And yeah, she's has that family life or whatever. But I think over the course of the movie, he really learns to appreciate who she is. You have the scene in the hospital where they're talking, and he's like, and he gives her that monologue about how it makes you feel like strong and weak at the same time. And I don't think he's practiced that. I think it's just coming out, and he's in a way, she's seeing herself through his eyes, and he's also like, oh, I really do feel something about this girl more than just the next door neighbor, right? And I love how Peter and Mary Jane and Harry, we see how their parents are, we see their upbringings and how they're defined by that, right? Again, very character driven. You mentioned efficient, and I love that word. Like I said, I think it gets done what it needs to do. It doesn't go to the extra level, but it gets what you need it to do to really sell the moments, right? The scene, what I love about the filmmaking, and going back to Raimi, is when you have Kirsten Dunst and Toby talking to each other, the camera starts moving in closer and closer on their faces because it gets more intimate. When they're in the backyard and she's talking about, I want to act. And he's like, oh, you were great in all those plays. They are getting closer to each other, not just emotionally, but the camera work is showing you they're growing closer together physically, right? That they're drawing to each other. But then when Flash shows up, that's when Mary Jane runs off out of the close up and she runs far away from Peter and kind of distances them. So again, the camera work is just, it's also telling the story, and I love that. But yeah, all these characters, they really play off each other, and even Willem Dafoe and James Franco, they have a resolution, right? They have that scene where Norman's like, look, I know I wasn't a bad there for you, and I should have been, and I'm so sorry, right? And that's when Harry's like, oh, so that sets you up for, it's a shattering moment for Harry because he's going to lose his father right when they get him. So you're spot on, and I think people miss how character driven the MCU is. It seems to be moved from one thing to another thing without really sticking a lot of the time. And I think this movie, because of the three characters' upbringing, and you see how they define themselves, and you see them define themselves over the course of the movie. So earlier, like sorry, I rudely interrupted you, but I wanted to ask you a question. Do you think that because of the sincerity and the earnestness of these movies, I was really taken aback watching it again, because it's like, this movie is not snarky about what it is. You have a scene in No Way Home where Otto Octavius tells them their name and the three kids laugh. And I'm like, you know what? Shut up, you little brats. Like, why do we have to treat everything so snarky? Like, Ant-Man can't even say his name without, can we change the name? It's so dumb. You know what I mean? So these movies are so earnest, and they make no apologies for what they are. Do you think that's why people today, they don't recognize that? And that's why they don't really engage with these movies?
Yeah, maybe, everything's like a product of its generation, and there's, the generation gap they talk about, and it's obviously a real thing. And sometimes it's what you're exposed to. So you're exposed to that you think that's the norm, and that's what you like. And then when you see something different, they're like, I don't like that, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's annoying when everything is snarky. Yeah. I don't mind a little bit, it could be funny, but you got to have some earnestness and sincerity. And that's probably why I like Captain America, because he's a very earnest character. He's not a smart aleck.
Yeah. That first Captain America is very earnest and very Spider-Man like, and that's a good reason to like it. Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, all these, when you're comparing it to the new one, the MCU movies. Now, some do, I think, a pretty good job of knowing about the secondary characters. Like, you understand who they are. They're pretty fleshed out. But a lot of them don't. The Spider-Man movies certainly don't. And so when you're comparing the MCU Spider-Man to this, character-wise, it's like night and day. Like, I know who Mary Jane is. I know who Harry is. I know who the villains are, even when they aren't on screen for very long. You know who they are, because, and I think a big part of that is because there's like sincerity to it. They're not just on screen to, to tell a joke or something, or to set Peter up for, something. They're not just there to support him. They're their own character. And they're just as important because, it's almost like an ensemble. Even though there's a clear lead. They're like ensemble pieces. I would say the only character who's like kind of one note, but I really don't care because he's so wonderful, is Jameson.
Oh yeah, you want him to be one note. I think that's what really
I'm like,
sells.
Who the heck cares? He's fantastic. Yeah, he's so good in the part. Yeah,
he's love great. Him.
I think it's hilarious that he's so good that it's like you can't cast anybody else.
Yeah, so they have to bring him back. But again, we wanted to keep the comparisons to the very end. But even though he shows up in the MCU, I do not think he has a single line as J. Jonah Jameson in that universe that's as funny as anything he says here.
No.
I just he's a J.K. Simmons is alive in a way.
Yeah.
So the other thing, and that's a great segue into what I really wanted to bring up here, is it's
Sure.
so character driven
Mhm.
that even that scene on the bridge, right? It's cheesy, but I think it works narratively. And I wanted to, this is something I think people miss too, is the whole movie is about how Spider-Man and Peter, like you have that scene, the worst scene in the whole movie is literally when Green Goblin and Spider-Man are on top of that roof and they're both wearing masks and it's like a 3-minute scene and you don't see either of their mouths move. So they're just like moving. It's so weird. And it's like, okay, can we, let's switch the language of this is really kind of silly. But again, Green Goblin is telling him, look, become one of me, become like my level. I'm up here and you're trying to be down here. Don't do that. Like come with me and we'll lead the high life, right? And the whole movie Peter's like I'm not a part of that world. And so even J. Jonah Jameson shows you who he is in that part where Goblin attacks the Daily Bugle and he's like, who takes the pictures of Spider-Man? And J. Jonah Jameson goes, I don't know. They come in anonymously. So that's a great character moment. I think I equate that again later with like Snape in Harry Potter 3, where his first instinct is to protect those kids. Like that's who he is, right? And so I love that J. Jonah Jameson does that. But this whole movie's leading you to the point where because Peter is with the people of the street, that's why they come to his rescue. You know what I mean? So I think narratively that works. It's not just let's put a 9/11 reference in here. The movie has guided you to that point where Spider-Man is one of the masses and he represents the masses. So naturally, they're going to come to his rescue. Again, we talk about efficiency and again, we talk about two-note. I think as far as the character writing goes, that is so rich and it's so narratively, it has such a great payoff that yeah, it's cheesy, but it works because of the story and the theming. And I think that's what's really strong about these movies that a lot of the later movies really try to copy and only get it's like diet versions of that. I'm sorry to say that, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah. I do want to ask, so I have an opinion about I wanted to ask like what your favorite scenes in the first movie are.
Mhm.
One of them is you already mentioned is when they're in the hospital and they're talking and he gives that speech and it's like she's seen herself through someone else's eyes in a positive way, like almost for the first time, because even
Truly
like with,
sees, yeah.
even like Harry, it's like, yeah, he cares about her, but he wants to like change her to suit like what his father
Yeah.
would like.
Why
Like when
didn't you wear the other dress?
she
I wanted
dresses
you
in
to
this
impress him.
beautiful like I don't know what that dress is called. It's like the Asian dress.
Right.
I know it has a specific name, but I don't know what it is. I forget. I'm sorry, but I saw someone go, "Is that appropriate?" I'm like, "Well, it's for a World Unity Day, so I think that's probably why she would be wearing something like that." And she looks beautiful. But he's like, why don't you wear the black dress? And it's like, why can't you just say you look beautiful? My father will be, so happy to see you, sort of thing. No, you're not wearing what you should be wearing, sort of thing.
Right.
And then I love what I think it's very interesting. I don't know if you might agree with me. I think the kind of the most iconic scene in the movie, which I think is kind of nice, is a romantic scene when they kiss each other in the rain. I mean, people like mimic that in other movies and TV shows and stuff. It's very iconic. And I'm like, isn't it interesting how the most iconic scene in a movie is a kiss? It's not some action or fight scene or something.
Yep.
It's just these two characters, in this beautiful moment. And then I also love just to talk about how great Sam Raimi is. That end where he's like, you have to choose between saving Mary Jane or saving all the little children. And you see in his the eyes, the reflection of both of them falling.
Yep.
I'm like, that's just such an amazing, cool shot.
That's a comic book shot if there ever was one. Yeah. The comic book
very comic book shot. So I mean, those are probably my favorites. I mean, I also love Uncle Ben, and then the end when they're she's saying how much she loves him, and he's like, I'll always be there for you, but I can't be with you. And I always think that moment though is interesting where she's like that. It's like, is she like suspecting who he is? But then
I think she recognizes the kiss. She recognizes his lips, and I think.
But then I feel like they sort of abandon that a little bit in the second one. Like there's like no like hint that
they have the scene where her fiance she has him kiss her upside down.
So that's true.
There is that.
Even though I thought that was more just like the feeling she gets from it. Like
right.
It's not the same when I kiss him as when I kissed, Spider-Man or whatever. But
right.
Okay, so do you have a favorite scene in the first movie?
Well, we did mention it. We're talking about the scene on the bridge, right? That would be my biggest takeaway. But it's got a lot of, again, there are moments that are pure Spider-Man in here. Like you just talked about the scene at the end where he basically tells Mary Jane, I can be there as a friend. I think there's another thing that you watch YouTubers react to this, and when he says I can only be there for you as a friend, they're like, what? Why don't you just go for what, and so what they're missing there, and this is what's so funny, not just about YouTubers, but the way people watch movies these days, is they don't understand, it seems like, that the whole movie has been geared that the longer it goes, that when he's Spider-Man, he's putting people in danger. It's literally that part where he's talking with Aunt May and he's like, everybody knows that you love her. And it's like, oh crap. So he runs out and the Goblin has her, right? That's what leads to that whole confrontation where he lets him choose between the kids and her. And so, and again, he didn't murder Norman, but he didn't do everything within his power to save Norman either, right? He watches him die and knows that that's going to mean something. And so the whole movie is like, oh, being Spider-Man means the people that I love are in trouble. And it's the whole with great power comes great responsibility. And so that's why he says, I can't be with you because I'm putting you in danger. And it's so funny watching people go, what? I don't get that. It's like, well, obviously you didn't pay attention to the rest of the movie, right? I don't understand what you're doing.
Obvious. Like they're beating over in the head with it practically. I mean, it's like poor Aunt May is sitting there praying and her whole house is blown up. I mean, for heaven's sake, how can you not understand that?
Yeah. It's just, it's not, like I said, it's not just YouTubers. I'm seeing that with a lot of people. They're not grasping these ideas because it doesn't come out and tell you. I think that's what it is. It never says that. So again, Uncle Ben, you have that scene. That's great. You have where he finds him dead on the sidewalk, that stuff. So all great stuff. But the other scene that I really wanted to mention that I really think nails Spider-Man is after the kiss that you talked about. Again, it's so funny that a superhero movie, the most indelible iconic image from the movie is a kiss. It's not an action scene. I think that's, you look at the Superman movies as well, Christopher Reeve, Margot Kidder, it's the love story. I think that's what really sells it, right? So it has right after where J. Jonah Jameson is putting all these things in the paper. He's making Spider-Man out to be a bad guy. He tells Mary Jane, like, some people don't think I'm amazing, right? That kind of thing. And she kind of emboldens him. But you have that scene in the fire where the woman has left her child up there. And it's cheesy, like your acting's over the top, right? But what I love is that Spider-Man comes to the rescue. They're waiting. He saves the baby. And because he's being, lambasted in the press, those two cops come up and say, hey, you're under arrest, buddy. And they hear somebody upstairs. And I love the scene where they look at each other and is like, I'm going, I've got to go up there. And the cop's like, I'll be here when you get back, right? He knows that there's nobody else that's going to be able to save the person up there. So I love that conflict in there, but nothing says Spider-Man like that. I know people are like, you're a vigilante, we have to arrest you, but yeah, you're a hero and you need to go do what you need to do. I think that scene really nails the essence of Spider-Man. Again, this movie is so efficient that it nails all the things that I loved about Spider-Man growing up. That's what I loved. And then the next one's going to take it to the next level. I say that as a negative, Marianne, but I think that's important. You need to set stuff up for it to really pay off later. And that's the sign of a good sequel that can take stuff that's the table setting or whatever and take it and make a meal out of it.
Yeah. The scene when it's a fire and there's a little toddler that like saves him, like pulls him up. Is that in the first one or the second?
That's the second one. That's the second one. It's a little Asian boy.
Okay, the first one. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Because there's two scenes where he's going into a burning building, and I mixed it up a little bit. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the love story, but that like you have to talk about like multiple movies. Obviously not just the first one. So, and then that goes hand in hand with our similar feelings about Mary Jane's character.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that really bothers me when you go into the second movie and you see this other girl that like clearly has a crush on Peter. What is her name? Ursula?
Yep, Ursula. Mm-hmm.
And you see these posts on social media about how Peter should have gone with Ursula instead of Mary Jane, because look how sweet Ursula is. She brings him chocolate cake and she, sort of thing. She's just this meek little thing that she's really sweet to him, and she's a sweet girl, but do you know anything about her besides that she's nice to Peter and brings him chocolate cake?
Right. She's always cooking for her dad's friends.
Yeah. So it's like, she's a cute girl, and heaven forbid Mary Jane has a personality and isn't always giving him a break. She doesn't know he's Spider-Man. She doesn't understand the reason that he keeps bailing and not showing up for her. In her mind, it's like, my friend who says he cares about me is not there for me.
Mm-hmm.
And like she says, you're just an empty seat. So it's like, of course she calls him on it and feels hurt. And Mary Jane in these movies is a fully fleshed out character. She's not just a prop for Peter. Someone to support him and go, you're so great. I love you. You're so wonderful. And there's nothing wrong with it, that having that in the character. And she does do that with him, but that's not all she does.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like their love story. It's frustrating in it's frustrating in the third one. It is.
Yeah.
I even see people criticize the fact that it's like, well, she just constantly is cheating on everybody. And I'm like, okay, cheating on Harry. She's cheating on her astronaut boyfriend because she really loves Peter. And I'm like, she loves Peter, but he's not there for her. So she's just trying to find some happiness, and stability. And there's no one more stable than some like heroic astronaut hero guy, But, when she thinks he's finally going to be there for her, and then all of a sudden he's backtracking again, he's just so dejected. And it's like, don't you love me? And that's why I love that moment at the end of number 2, when you see the realization on her face. It's just like, oh God, now I finally get it.
Yeah.
The sort of thing.
Yep.
And
we'll get to that.
And I love her character. It reminds me a lot of the way they handled Lois and Clark in the Lois and Clark TV show with Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher, when before she found out he was Superman. He was constantly disappearing. Every time he heard someone in trouble, he's like, I gotta go. And she's like, what do you mean you gotta go right this second? Right? It's like the second something was going to be serious, he hears someone in trouble. So she thinks it's like, it's me. He doesn't want to be with me. And I remember a moment in that where she's like, Clark, if you leave, come on, forget it. And of course he leaves because he's going to go save someone. But it's very similar to that. And I think it's just really well done, really realistic. What are your thoughts? They're probably pretty similar.
Well, I think it really gets complicated in the second one and gets a lot deeper in the second one. Just to latch on to what you said about people think that she's cheating on people. Again, that's you're talking about people that aren't in relationships, trying to be above that and looking down at people that are a character that is in a relationship. And again, it sounds, Mary Jane is trying to define herself. Like I said, she's with the popular boy. She's with the rich boy. And then finally it's like, no, Peter's the one that I need to be with and again, it gets more complicated in the second one. But we all try to define ourselves, right? And again, not to be mean, but absolutely to be mean. If you're a YouTuber and you finally defined yourself by sitting yourself in front of a computer and watch movies and comment on movies, and that's your whole personality, it's like, yeah, of course you're not going to get that. You know what I mean? Because you're not living a proper life. You don't know how people act in reality. And that's a problem with a lot of movie watchers these days, they watch from like up like the proscenium, they watch from up on a higher chair, judging everybody because that's not how I would act. And yeah,
Yeah.
but if people acted logically, there would be no movie. You know what I mean? There'd be no drama. That's the whole point of it. Like acting logically would, there's a Community episode where they're in a horror movie and they make all the right decisions. What's the fun in that? You know what I mean? What's the fun in them not being picked off one at a time? And so I think that people have a real problem with saying that's not what I would do, therefore this movie doesn't work. And it's like, well, that's not the point of a movie, to do what you're doing. You know what I mean? You're living vicariously through other people. So again, it's going to get really ugly, especially with I don't want to say ugly because that's going to make it seem like I'm calling Ursula ugly. Like she's not ugly either.
No,
She's
she's
very
not
cute.
ugly.
They're all, but I'm just saying the situation is very complicated where that's people are like, oh yeah, go with her. And it's like, sure, if you want to have somebody that coddles you and never challenges you your whole life, why don't you just date a blow up doll? You know what I mean? Like if you don't want somebody to challenge you and have agency, then what are you doing? What are you even doing? It gets me so upset that these people are judging. You're right. She doesn't know that he's Spider-Man. I think people can't put themselves in other people's shoes, and it's so frustrating to see people do that and react, like have a knee-jerk reaction to that. Like, oh, that's not what I would do or not how I would act. And it's like, yeah, but you're not putting yourself in this person's shoes. Of course, Mary Jane's going to be upset because Peter keeps bailing on her. Like they only see it from Peter's point of view, and they're like, why can't you be more understanding, Mary Jane? It's like, because you don't understand where she's coming from. You think she needs to be just on the side, just cheering him on no matter what he does. When he makes a dumb mistake, you don't want to be called on it. You know what I mean? We're going back to Peter in that car with Uncle Ben. You're a teenager. You don't want to be called on it. I think a lot of people who are well into their 30s now, they don't want to be called on the carpet for the crap that they do. And it's so they're just perpetual teenagers. I don't know if that makes sense. Like I might get angrier the more that we talk about it later, but as far as Mary Jane goes in this movie, I just think it's not cheating. She just doesn't know what she's doing, right? She's trying to find herself. So it's complicated.
Well, it's a very common thing I see just in media in general, where people are very judgy with the characters. They have to be like these perfect beings or they don't like them. Like if they don't, do everything perfectly, which doesn't make any sense, because if a movie was like that, it'd be boring, and you gotta have drama and people make
mistakes. Half an hour long. Yeah, I could name you movies where that happens, where it's completely dead in the water because they don't do that stuff. A lot of them are MCU movies.
Yeah. Not to skip ahead to number 3, because I don't want to skip number 2, obviously. But in the third one, it's very messy, and it's interesting how Peter's like, he gets like an ego and he does things, and it's like, of course she's going to react that way. How could you kiss someone in our special way right in front of me and not even think it's a big deal?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like really a terrible, terrible thing to do. And even when she's just trying to talk to him about, things that are going wrong, and he has to bring it back to himself. And it's like, that's a very common problem with just men and women in general sometimes, where it's like that you can't just like be there to go, okay, yeah, I understand. No, you have to relate it back to you. It isn't always about him. Sometimes it's just about her. And that's a problem people have in relationships. But, obviously they come back around to each other, which I like. But to go back to number 2, because I don't want to skip that. But I do want to talk about, you already mentioned him, I do want to talk about Alfred Molina, because he's so good. And it's very similar to, obviously, the Green Goblin, but even more so, where he was a genuinely phenomenal, wonderful person. And these things just overtake him and corrupt his mind. And it's like, even back then, they're showing the dangers of artificial intelligence. It's like, we've had plenty of movies now that show you how bad AI is. Yep. And yet let's continue to use it. I'm like, that's a whole other tangent. But he's so great. Alfred Molina is one of the great character actors, that's out there. And I love how unhinged he gets, because these things are like monsters almost, these mechanical arms. And
Hmm.
I love the end when Peter finally, is able to get through to him, and he has to make that sacrifice. So,
Hmm.
what are your other thoughts about his character? And I do love the how he sees what a sweet relation, a very like realistic marriage should be between him
Hmm.
and his wife. And that's so
Yeah.
sad. Character dies. Oh my gosh.
Right. Well, what we're talking, I guess, to mention Melina's character, what I'm, and I do want to go over our histories with the movie. I don't know if you still want to do that.
Sure.
Talk about watch the first time, but everything in this movie is taken to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, I've seen people complain that the second movie is just basically a remake of the first movie because it has
Mm-mm.
a lot of similar scenes and things like that. But no, we'll go into some of the differences here. But you're talking about, so you got Donna Murphy as Rosalie, right? Octavius. And yeah, you have Peter that he really gets close to Norman Osborn because Norman is showing him kindness and interest in what he does, right? So that's cool. But then you have, again, it's the same thing with Alfred Molina. It's an idol of his, but he sees in Rosalie that you can have the balance between doing what you want to do and what you're meant to do, and also be in a loving relationship where you can make it work. And so I love that Peter sees that. And it's not just tragic. The big tragedy is that she gets killed because of the accident that happens in that lab. But Peter is also shattered because he's like, that was somebody that I could have been, and their world was torn apart. So now what am I going to do? Right. So he recognizes that. You talked about the part with the little Asian kid. It's the scene where, again, same thing from the first one. He dives into a burning building to save somebody. But now you get to see inside the building that you have the thing with the kid saving him, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can go through. You have, like, again, the scene where Mary Jane and Peter are talking to each other. It again, very similar. He's off doing his own thing. She's being popular and she's being on billboards, things like that. Her face is everywhere. And he can't make human connections because he's Spider-Man. He has this loftier goal, right? Responsibility. And so they have that scene in the back where, again, it's the same thing. You see the camera pulling close and they're getting closer to each other and they're really bonding. And then she goes, "Do you have something you want to ask me?" And there's a moment where he stops being sincere, where he can tell her, "I'm Spider-Man. Let's figure this out." But he's like, "I was just wondering, are you still in the village?" Which is a meta moment because I think
Yeah.
Kirsten Dunst was up for the role for Bryce Dallas Howard's role in The Village, then that Shyamalan movie, but then she had to bow out. So that's a meta moment. But because he does that and he backs off, all of a sudden now the camera backs up. And now it pulls away from both of them because they were getting closer, but he's not being honest with her. And now they're separating because he's not telling her the truth. There's a boundary that he's building up a wall in between them, and she doesn't know why, and she's getting frustrated. So again, the Molina character, the Doc Ock, is again emblematic of what I'm talking about. This second movie takes everything and then it adds another layer to it. Instead of just
Mm-hmm.
being this thing, it makes it more human, it makes it more
Yeah.
three-dimensional. And that's the thing that and we'll go into some more details that I want to talk about, but that's the main thing that I love about Spider-Man 2, and why a main reason why I think it's the greatest live action superhero movie ever made is because it has all these moments of human three-dimensional truth in them. And Alfred Molina, again, he's such a great character actor that he doesn't care that he shows up at one point like pudgy, like he's not built, right? He doesn't even have a dad bod. Like he's
It
got a
doesn't
pudgy
matter.
body and he shows up. It's just cool. Like he doesn't care. I think that's great. That's great of Alfred Molina.
Yeah. Um, I think I don't think it's my favorite comic book movie, but it's my favorite of these.
Right.
But it's high up there if I'm like thinking about every single superhero movie or something. It's high up there because it's
Mhm.
just, 5 out of 5 stars. It's just amazing. And one of the things I really like about it is this arc that Peter has where so much of what he's doing physically as Spider-Man is affected by how he's feeling psychologically,
Mhm.
and that he's having this like mental, block and stuff. So I thought that was really interesting. Just one second. I felt like I was gonna cough.
Great cut, by the way.
Like he falls and like he was trying to climb the wall and then he falls or something like, and then he hurts his
Mhm.
back.
Yep.
Excuse me. That's just an interesting story beat, I think, that they make it this like, because he can't find, he has to learn how to find that balance, to have what he wants but still be Spider-Man, and only when he can be honest with himself, with Mary Jane, then he could do that, and then he's back to being able to make the webs and swing everywhere. And do you agree? Do you like that part of the story? I just think it's really well done.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me ask you, what was your, and I'll seek into this, I promise, but what was your history with watching Spider-Man 2? Was it the same? Were you excited to see it, first of all?
Oh yeah.
Were you expecting it to be as even more rich in character? I mean, what was your experience?
I remember being really excited to go see it. 2004 was just a terrific year for movies in general. And then
yes,
it's just like, oh great, another Spider-Man movie. This is fun. And I remember loving it. I feel like I liked it better than the first one, even back then. Remember seeing it in the movie theater. I used to go to the movies all the time. I don't do that very much.
Right.
I think I only saw it once, but yeah, I remember being excited for it. And it's funny, I remember during the Oscars where it was nominated and won for visual effects. And it was up against Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. And I'm like, which one should win? And my brother's like, come on, Spider-Man stalked the train. And it didn't look fake. I'm like, yeah, you're right. and it deserved its win.
Right.
for the effects. But the other things I want to talk about with this movie are that scene, obviously, and then Harry's character and his whole thing. I'll start with that because the scene, is it in 2 or 3? I think it must be in 3 though, where they're at a party and he starts slapping Peter. I think
that's the second one. That's the second one.
That's the second one.
Yeah, I'll want to bring up that scene specifically.
Because that's hurts to watch, because they are best friends, and I think that's one of the things people don't understand about the character, is because he's kind of whiny, especially like at the end. He's like, "You're gonna listen to me, we're not gonna stop this experiment." And he's so over the top. But then at the end, he's just like, "I'm ruined." And yes, it's a little over the top, but it's true. And he's like, he's trying to be his father, and he's never going to be his father. And when all of a sudden he sees that it's Peter, that's Spider-Man, it's just like that's going to hurt him so much, because he genuinely thinks, he's like, my best friend killed my father, the 2 people I love more than anything. So of course he's going to have a severe adverse reaction to that. And that's what makes it so emotional in the third movie. And that's probably my favorite part of the third movie, is that whole thing, that whole dynamic. We'll get to that. Right. But that scene it hurts. It hurts. It just hurts as a viewer, and then you can imagine how Peter's feeling,
Right.
And it's almost like he doesn't want to tell Harry exactly what happened, because he doesn't want to ruin Harry's vision of his father, because he looks up to him so much.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
And then the third one, he comes to the really petty moment where he tells, like, he was ashamed of you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then I keep sidetracking you, and I'm sorry. We'll come back. You asked me a question originally, but talking about Harry, it's like, yeah, he's like, that's what I'm saying about Franco kind of getting like progressively worse as he goes, because he becomes more of a cartoon, becomes more, he throws a lot of tantrums, like you talked about, like, this is my experiment, right? And again, he has, even when he pulls the mask off and he dramatically falls back into the chair, I'm like, Franco, you couldn't do another shot of, I think he's just, but again, it's the melodrama that he's playing into, right? And the third one, it gets even more melodramatic. But I like that dynamic. It's because all these things are unsaid that it's ruining Peter's relationships in the second one. And that's
Mhm.
why it's so strong as a movie, because every scene tells you that. And it's so frustrating because he can't tell them like what's going on because he knows it's going to lead to something bad, right? And so that's the whole point of it. You're just circling back, like the first time when I watched Spider-Man 2, I have a very vivid memory because I got in a car accident the day that we went to go see it.
Oh,
My
dear.
wife and I already bought tickets. We were going to go see it late that night, and I was on my way home from work, and I wasn't watching what I was doing, and I ran into the back of another car, and we had to pull to the side.
Oh,
And they were in a truck, and they weren't damaged, but the front of our Camry was damaged, so we had to do that. But we still had to go to the movie, and so that's what I was like. Oh, I got to get to the movie, that kind of instead of
yeah.
dealing with like what insurance. So that's a very vivid memory, but it reminded me of like when I didn't know Batman Begins was going to be as great as it was, right? So that was my whole world. I was like, I can't handle it. I'm so excited. And then when I saw the movie and it was better than I thought, that's great. So when The Dark Knight came around, though, I was like, well, I know it's going to be good. I wasn't prepared for how good it was going to be. And it's the same thing with this movie where I was like, yeah, it's another Spider-Man movie. And again, from maybe 20 minutes in, I started realizing something's different about this. I know that it has like the guy that wrote Alvin Sargent wrote like Ordinary People, right? That's a crazy
Oh.
that's a crazy credit to have on a comic book movie. And yet he's on here. I know that they went to Michael Chabon, who was a comic book writer. He wrote, I'm trying to find it, wrote something called The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, which won a Pulitzer Prize for fiction. He actually had a hand in creating the story for this. You have Alex Ross, the famous comic book artist that does the reenactments, like the murals from the first movie, kind of like catching you up with what happened last time.
Oh, and the credits. I love that
Yeah.
so much. Those are great.
Gorgeous. Right.
Yeah.
And then, so again, it just felt like the whole movie was on a different level, even though like when the movie begins and it's the Danny Elfman score and it does the same thing. I'm like, are they just playing the first movie? Like what's happening? And then it does Spider-Man and then it does 2 and you're like, okay. And then, so you're kind of cued to that, which is what a sequel should do, right? It should kind of comment on all this stuff, which I've mentioned with the Mary Jane scene, but I just didn't plan on the movie being as good as it was. And the main thing, and it never gets talked about, and if you need to edit this part out, I understand. But the part that never gets talked about with it being so adult is what the reason I love the organic webs. Again, people don't like that. They, for some reason, they like Peter being such a genius that he creates some kind of mechanism that nobody on the face of the earth has created, like a stronger, you know what I mean?
Can I ask about that?
Yeah.
Because I had no idea that it's not supposed to be that way or something. I'm like, why would it not be that? He's bit by the spider. It's in him. Why would he have to create something separate? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. Well, it is kind of gross. Like if you look down and see.
Well, yeah, but
on your
it's like
wrist,
he got bit by the spider, and now he's
that's what it would
a
be.
spider. So that's really
what I mean.
strange that it's not like that for the other ones.
But people are so beholden. People are so beholden to those the he makes the webs himself, right? That they have no room, their brains can't. Anyway, what I love about the organic webs is it's again, you're talking about a teenager that's coming of age, right? And I apologize for this. Literally in the first one, there's a part where Aunt May comes into his room and he's got white sticky stuff all over his room, right? Boys will know what that means. And it's a very obvious. I've always loved that Cameron did that because you could do so much with that dramatically. And they do here. You have that scene. Again, you could call Spider-Man 2, Peter Parker gets kicked in the junk because that's all that happens to him for the whole movie. And he goes to the party. First of all, Harry's drunk, comes up and starts berating him in public. People notice that, walks off. He tries to grab a drink. Everything's like nothing's where he can't grab it because they move too fast or the cup's empty. He can't even get a drink. He tries to go to Mary Jane, tries to tell her the poems that he's reading. She's like, you can't just show up and quote poetry and all this. And she walks off. And then J. Jonah Jameson's like, take the pictures. Like he's basically emasculating Peter, right? And it keeps happening. And then again, Harry comes up and he's like, okay, you have more loyalty to Spider-Man than you have to your friend. And he literally slaps him across the face. And you notice all the other party goers are they're not looking at Harry for being violent. They're looking at Peter disgusted because he caused Harry to be violent. And so that's piling on him. Then you look over and it's the son, like the Jameson Jr., right? Saying, I just wanted to make an announcement that the lovely Mary Jane has agreed to marry me because she and Peter just had that argument. That's the last straw. She's like, I've got a man that's going to do that's going to be there for me. So I'm obviously going to go with this guy that's proposed to me. And then he has to take the pictures of Mary Jane
I
and
know.
Jameson, right? His whole world, that 5 minutes is he's just getting kicked and he's down and he's emasculated. So when he's soaring, that used to give him the joy being Spider-Man. He becomes impotent. Right. We're talking about the white sticky stuff in his room. We're going with that sexual kind of the thematics. He can't perform, right? He can't do his manly duties. And so because his whole world is just collapsing on him and his powers don't work. I think that adds so well to the drama, but nobody ever really talks about what that means thematically. I don't know if that makes any sense. To me,
No,
I
that makes
watched
sense.
the movie and I was like, whoa, they're going here. You know what I mean? They're doing this as a comment. And I just thought that was so cool from like again, a growing boy becoming a man. This is the kind of stuff that they go through. And I just think for a comic book movie that's so adult.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought of it more psychological, but that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good interpretation too, and it makes a lot of sense, especially in that moment where it's like, God, every bad thing he can imagine is happening all at once. That's why it's like when those few moments where he's just back to Goofy Peter and they're playing the raindrops keep falling on my head. He seems all happy and but you know, it can't stay that way, you know, not if he's gonna be his true self. But before we get on to the third movie, I do want to bring up the scene where he's stopping the train because I love like I said, the thing about these movies is yes, there's action in them, but it's never too long, it's never pointless, and it always serves the characters and the story. It's not just to look cool. So this scene is just incredible because it looks amazing. You know, he's doing everything, every last ounce of energy to save these people, and that he literally just like passes out. And when they're carrying when he's gonna fall forward and they pull him back, and then they're literally just carrying him sort of like Christ-like, you know, sort of where he's just asleep and then they lay him down and they're like, he's just a kid, you know, no older than my son. And maybe, you know, it's a little corny that the little boys come up, you know, we found something. I'm like, okay, it's a little corny, but I like the sincerity there. And how
those are McGuire's nephews, by the way, those two boys.
Oh, they were. Oh, that's so sweet. I didn't know that. I love that moment because it's just like this sense of this intimate sense of community. Like we're not gonna tell anyone, you know, you're safe, basically. And it's just a beautiful moment. And so what are your thoughts on that?
So again, sorry, I keep going on these tangents to basically,
it's okay.
I take another road to get you back to where we are. the one of the main reasons why this is the in my mind, it gets my vote for the greatest live action comic book movie is because it's so three-dimensional and it never gives Peter a break. It's always so sincere. It's never easy for him until the very end. And there's the last shot of the movie even tells you that it's not going to be easy for him. Then it's not going to be easy for either him or Mary Jane, right? But because he keeps devoted, he has to save people, right? He can't help it. And that makes him late. It makes him late to deliver the pizzas. It makes him late to show up to Mary Jane's play. And again, you have Bruce Campbell, like, and again, a great role, like as the usher telling him you can't come in. That's really funny, stuff like that. Everything he does gets him to the point where he just can't win, you know what? Because he's devoted to being Spider-Man, and that's again, who am I going to be loyal to? What can I do? Am I destined to be Spider-Man? Am I destined to live a normal life? That's why he decides to give it up. right? That's why he decides to literally hang up his costume. And what I love is that whole raindrops. Yeah, it's silly and it's funny, but it's, again, this is Peter Parker. We're in his head, right? And so he does that, and you see him succeeding, and he's able to make it to the play, and everything's going right for him. But then you see him and Mary Jane walking outside, and she's already engaged, right? And he's like, "Well, let's go eat something." And she's like, "I'm engaged. Like, I can't go
Yeah.
out with you." And it's like, he's like, "Look, I'm different. I bleed. Punch me. You can tell, right?" But she's like, "You can't just show up to one play and think everything's going to be all right. Sure,
Yeah.
that's great, and I appreciate it, but you've got to do more than that. It's not going to magically fix anything." So that was the first thing. I love when he goes and finally tells Aunt May, and that's what we're talking about. Like, he's not putting everything on the table. He's not being truthful with people. When he tells Aunt May what happened the night that Ben was killed, and again, people get frustrated by this. They're like, how come Aunt May doesn't forgive him right then and there? He's being sincere. He's being truthful. She should be okay with it. No, she's lived a lie for how many years? Let her process it. Why does
Yeah.
everything have to be according to your logic rules? Which again is stupid, because all you do is sit in front of a computer all day, right? And you don't interact with people. Why do
Yeah.
you get to tell somebody else how they should act? You have the scene again where he goes, this is what I love. It's not just that there's a kid that helps save him. He goes into the running building when everybody else is running out. He saves the boy, but when he goes out, the firemen are like, "Good job, but we lost somebody on the top floor. We still
Yeah.
lost people." So Peter never gets a break the whole movie. And that's why he's like, "Do I not get to have what I want? What do I do?" And it gets to the point where he decides, he's in the restaurant with Mary Jane, and he's like, "I can't do this. Like, she just give me a kiss." And he's like, and it interrupts him with Doc Ock obviously throwing the car through. But when he realized, I'm going to be Spider, this is my destiny, is to be Spider-Man. That's when he gets his vision back, right? That's when he gets his strength back. That's when, again, J. Jonah Jameson is so funny, because you think he's going to have a lesson. He's going to learn something. He's like, "I was wrong about Spider-Man. He was a hero." But then he steals his costume. He's like, "He's a thief." But
He's a thief.
it's so funny, because you're like, "Oh yeah, that's right. J. Jonah Jameson can't have a character arc. That's not what he does." Right.
Yeah.
But it leads to the scene where you have that great fight scene. This is another thing that I think people are funny about, because I guess when he's punching Doc Ock, Spider-Man is so powerful that he should literally punch Doc Ock's head off. And I'm like, well, when was that talked about in the movie? That's never mentioned. So why would I care about that? But people are literally hung up on that. Maybe Peter's holding back or whatever, but
Oh.
they end up on the train, right? And it has such cool moments, Marianne. I remember freaking out when Doc Ock is throwing people up in the air, and Peter grabs
Yeah.
him, throws him, and shoots a
Yeah.
web
I love
underneath
that.
him. So fun. And then he's saving the people on the train. His mask comes off. And I love, again, I keep bringing up YouTubers. Whenever YouTubers see the part with his mask, they're like, "Put your mask back on." And they talk about the mask not being on as he's trying to save these people. That's their concern. As a movie watcher, that's your concern, that he doesn't wear his mask? So anyway, he saves the people,
It's
he
weird.
faints from the exertion, and they say, what's great is Peter gave up his power because it's what he wanted to do, right? It's for the first time in his life, he's being selfish. But this power that he's given, with great power comes great responsibility. He can't give that up, because the people need that from him. So when they carry him, yeah, it's a repeat of the bridge scene, but again, that's what I'm talking about. It takes it to the next level. They carry him and they treat him, basically they Jesusify him, right? They treat him like
Yeah.
he's a Christ character, and that's a moment that's like, Peter has given his life basically for these people, and they're repaying him for it.
Yeah.
They're showing him that how grateful they are, to the point where, yeah, he's a kid, but we're not going to tell anybody, right? You saved us. That's what matters. And I love seeing YouTubers go, "Oh," it's like, yeah, like, act like a human for once and you'll get that, right? You don't always have to act like you're better than the characters you're watching. But yeah, I think that's the climax of the movie, because the whole movie's about Peter wrestling with his responsibilities and what he should be devoting his time to. And it's, yeah, his friends and his family have to understand that I've got a power that's higher than me, that's bigger than me, and so that's what I've got to devote my life to. And I think that's what the train scene does.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up the last scene, because it's like, yes, it's happy, but it's not like all happy go lucky at all, because yes, him and Mary Jane are finally going to be together, but I love that she's like, "Well, go get him, Tiger." She's being supportive, but you see that look on her face. It's somber. She's not smiling. So it's her reality. She's chose it, but she understands it, and
well, she has to worry about him now.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
he has to worry about
step.
her. She has to worry about him. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
But that's a relationship. It's not just only
Right.
one person about the other.
Even that last shot does not cut Peter any slack. You know what I mean? I want to be sure we mention Rosemary Harris's monologue that she gives before we move on to the third
that's
one.
great.
But what I don't want to jump off of this. What I love about that Peter again. So he saves Doc Ock by appealing to his empathy, right? Peter uses his empathy to get through to him and said, "This is not who you are. Don't let these arms tell you who you are. You know you're better than this, right? There's a responsibility you have." He repeats what Octavius told him. He also repeats what Aunt May told him. Sometimes we have to be steady and we'll be willing to give up what we want for the greater good, right? And then he does a thing where he saves Mary. She sees him with his mask off. She realizes that. I love that conversation. Again, they're in the web. That's such a cool visual where he's like, "We can never be because you're always going to be in danger. And I can't do that." But what's great about her leaving Jameson at the altar and meeting Peter in the doorway. Yeah, it sucks for Jameson, but do you want her to be in a loveless? She's in love with Peter, obviously. But I love that she stands in the doorway and she says, "I know what you're going through, but can't you trust me to pick up the slack for you?" That's what relationships are. I was floored by that in the theater because she's basically stepping up saying, "It's not 100% you. It's 50-50. We have to support each other. We have to be there for each other." And that's how it ends. And wow, for a comic book movie, a superhero movie, a super spandex movie, you know what I mean? To cover those themes in that way, I just think that's amazing. And then again, with the Rosemary Harris monologue, I mean, first of all, what are your thoughts on what I just said about Mary J meeting him in his doorway? And then what are your thoughts on the Rosemary Harris monologue?
Well, I love that. She's like, I'm here. I am standing in your doorway. I'm always standing in your doorway. Like, I'm gonna be here for you, no matter what. And it's like, you understand why he feels the way he does, but he was taking away her choice.
Yeah.
And that's not what relationships are. Everyone has a choice of what they want. And I hate to go back to Lois and Clark, but it does remind me of that. When she finds out he's Superman, it's like, then there's this understanding, and it's like, yes, she's in danger, but she's choosing that, and that's important. So, and the monologue that Aunt May gives, oh, that's so wonderful. It's so beautifully performed and beautiful sentiment, and one of the best scenes of any superhero movie, that's for sure. It's like the lesson of the whole the whole trilogy, really so well done. These movies are really well written.
Yeah. That speech, I think that's emblematic of everything in a superhero. That sums up what a superhero is, right? That sums up what it is to be a hero, right? There's a hero in all of us. Like, just to be out there and know that I stuck with it just 1 minute longer to see the hero to save me, right? It's such a good like, it not only empowers Peter, but if you're in that audience, it's going to empower you too. It's like, like you want it and it's tough, but you've got to stick with it. You've got to make the sacrifice no matter how hard it is, right? And again, that's maybe the biggest reason why I think this movie, like I said, is gets my vote for the top live action comic book movie, because it just has so much truth to it, and it's just wonderful.
I agree. So moving on to the third one. So the thing with Spider-Man 3 is it gets a lot of flack for being a bad movie.
Okay.
I mean, if you compare it to Spider-Man 2, it's not nearly as good. But I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I really enjoy it a lot. I think there's just a little bit too much going on.
Yes.
Too many characters, too many villains, too many stories all going on at once. They're not done poorly. It just, you're not able to focus as well as you should be on like one storyline or something. I think maybe they shouldn't have had the Topher Grace character. Maybe that was one too many things. Like I get, it's interesting. Like I wasn't familiar with that character at all, even though I understand why he's in there. It's because of that goo, and that's what makes him that Venom character. But I just thought the Thomas Hayden Church's was more in line with how the other villains were, because he wasn't like a horrible evil person, you know, just did bad things and got caught up in this, and look what happened to him. And he was just trying to save his daughter who's ill, you know, which is sympathetic. And then the thing I think I like the most is the whole thing with Harry, because I have a vivid memory of being in the theater and when they're fighting and he falls and I'm just like, oh my God, is he dead?
Right.
Because, you know, you never know. And then when he wakes up and he doesn't have his memory and he was being so sweet again, I'm like, oh, he has Harry back. And it's just, it just tugged at my heart so much. And that's what makes then his arc, when obviously he gets his memory back and then he's being a complete jackass. But that makes it more powerful at the end when he comes back. That's the storyline I enjoy most in this movie, because you know, when he gets deformed from one of his father's things, and he comes in and he helps save Peter, and then you know, sacrifices himself. You know, he gets in the way to save Peter, and Peter and Mary Jane, you know, holding Harry's hand, you know, while he's dying. Such a powerful image. So that's the part of the movie I enjoy the most. But I like other things about it. I know people make fun of the way Peter is. They go, this is so corny and cheesy. And it
with
is.
Him dead, the cool Peter scene, you mean?
But I found it really kind of endearing because it's like this stuff comes down and it gets into his suit, right? So he acts that when he has the suit on. I'm like, if this is the worst he is, it's bad. It's not that bad. It's not like Eddie, who's like really thoroughly nasty and like disgusting.
Right. Long, sharp teeth,
because you know, the sharp teeth and everything, because he's not a very nice person. He's a jerk, and
it amplifies. Yeah.
It's like the super soldier serum sort of thing.
Red Skull, exactly.
So I'm like, if this is the worst he is, it's like, yeah, he's being a complete and utter jackass, basically. He's hurting Mary Jane. He's being stupid and like dancing with Gwen and trying to make her jealous. And I felt so sorry for her character, Gwen Stacy. Yeah. And like, she's like a sweetheart and she didn't deserve any of that. I'm like, but if that's the worst he is, I'm like, it just says it's a commentary on Peter and who he really is at his core. He's a really good person. And so I like that. Yes, his little dance is stupid, but I think it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think it's supposed to be lame.
That's what Peter thinks is cool. Peter Parker is a dork. That's what he thinks is cool. I think that's what people don't realize. That's his version of cool. It looks ridiculous, but that's his version of what cool looks like.
So what are your thoughts on all of that?
I don't think Spider-Man 3 is a bad movie. I thought it was a bad movie when my wife and I watched it in the theater for the first time. There was so much going on that we were literally looking around going, is this a prank? Is this really the movie? And they're going to stop it and show us the real movie?
Oh, no, I liked it the first time I watched it.
Yeah, so I really didn't like it the first time. But the thing is, when you have so many other comic book movies come out that don't understand what makes the first two Spider-Man work, and what works about those two movies still works here to a point, I think Spider-Man 3 looks better and better because of the stuff that the
Sure.
drama that it's able to do. Here's the thing, I think it's a compromise movie. I think Sam Raimi is such a people pleaser that when Columbia Pictures came to him and said, "We need to have Venom in this movie. Venom needs to be in this movie. It demands the fans demand." And Raimi was like, "But I don't know who Venom is. I've never been a fan of that. I've never read that character." And they're like, "No, you have to put him in." He's like, "Well, okay." I think what
Oh.
he does, the theme of the movie is great. It's about revenge and forgiveness. So the Topher Grace character, who's again a dark version of Peter, like an evil version of Peter, right? He's hell bent on revenge. He doesn't forgive at the end, and that's why he's killed. Peter
Yeah.
realizes, oh, this Sandman is one of the most iconic Spider-Man. I'd say even more than Dr. Octavius. I remember Sandman from when I was a kid. That's a very indelible
Oh.
image. So bringing Thomas Hayden Church back in, and again, they do the thing where he's not a bad person, where he has to steal because, yeah, there's all that stuff. You have the beautiful scene where his molecules have been torn apart, and you see him visually. It's what, a 3-minute scene where he's putting himself back together, and he keeps trying. Like, it's not like he
Yeah.
just wakes up and he does it. He keeps failing, like trying to rearrange his molecules, and then because he sees a picture of his daughter, that's what helps him focus, and that's what's able. Such a beautiful scene, and you can tell that Raimi's heart was really in that he loves the Sandman
Yeah.
character because it gets that. Myself, I've never been a Venom fan. I don't understand. Like, it's a dark version of Spider-Man. Sure, it's Spider-Man, but he's evil. Like, Eddie Brock is the same as Peter, but he's
Is that what
evil. I'm
it's
like, that's
supposed to
so,
be? It's supposed to be dark
yeah,
Spider-Man, sort of? Oh, okay.
yeah, like evil, monstrous, and to me, that's dull. You know, it's Venom has never worked for me. So the fact that Raimi is able to tie in the themes of revenge and forgiveness with the Venom character,
Mhm.
I think that's beautifully done. I just think that writing
Yeah,
wise, they couldn't crack it.
yeah.
They couldn't figure the thing with Harry. I agree. I like how Harry comes back, but it's a soap opera thing. They give him amnesia, and that's to get rid of that drama. They don't. I don't know what to do with him. Let's just get him out of the picture for a little bit. We'll bring him back later, but let's give him amnesia so he conveniently forgives everything, and then they can focus on Sandman. Then they can focus on Venom and all that. So I think just they
Yeah.
don't really. Again, sorry to, but in the Dark Knight, I think it's a glorious balance of having Batman and Joker and Two-Face in there, because Two-Face, Harvey Dent, is a pawn. He's in the middle of Batman and Joker's battle, and so he's like the collateral damage of that. I think that works. I don't think in here that they are able to really make Venom work or Sandman work. If they kicked out Venom, and I don't usually do the coulda, woulda, shouldas, Marianne. If they
Mhm.
made Peter like learn to deal with the black suit, that he can deal with it, because famously in the comics, that's what it is. It's an alien being that's trying to take over, and then eventually they split and it becomes Venom. I thought that maybe save Eddie Brock and introduce him in the fourth one, and then you can do a whole story with Venom. That could work. I just think that it's so. Yeah, and again, in the middle, you have a scene where Harry and Mary Jane like are dating, and they're like doing the twists, Chuck Berry, and
Yeah.
like they're making dinner, and I was like, why? When did we become the Big Chill? You know what I mean? Like, why did we sneak into a different movie? So tonally, this movie is a lot stranger. I just think that the visuals are still there, and
Mhm.
thematically, I think everything still works beautifully here. I just think that there's the Venom character tips that balance and kind of makes it. And again, I think people's pushback is they don't get Venom right, but to me, I'm like, who cares? I hate Venom. Like, why is he even in here? So I'd rather concentrate on Sandman and figure stuff out.
Mhm.
You have the Dr. Connors who turns into the lizard. Like, why don't we do something with that? Like, they never do anything with Dylan Baker's character. So I don't know. I don't think this is a terrible movie. I just think this is a compromised, misguided movie that still has. And again, it ends. People are mad that it doesn't end with a triumphant swing, Marianne, but Peter's he hit her. He hits Mary Jane.
Yeah.
They are not at a point at the
That's
end where she should
lowest
forgive
point.
him.
Lowest point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are starting to heal. I know that they were going to make a fourth Spider-Man, and that's what it was going to be
Mhm.
about. Great, right?
Yeah.
But again, this movie being about hubris, and don't you think that's great? Like, Peter's trying to find his identity in the first one, finds the right balance in Spider-Man 2, and because he kind of falls in love with his own image, that's why everything is about him. And
Yeah.
I love that it does that, and it hints at that before he even gets the black suit on. I think that's
Yeah.
good writing there. But because of that black suit, that's why he's, what about me? This is all about me and stuff,
Mhm.
and it just amplifies that. I think all that works beautifully.
And it's a very natural thing that happens even to good people, that you start to get caught up in your own, glory or something. And yeah, very realistic and well done.
Right.
I don't think the Venom character's like done poorly. I just think there's just so much going on that you're like, did you need it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Give him room in another movie to do something.
Yeah.
So
when you said Dr. Connors, I feel stupid not realizing that's the character that's the lizard in the other movie. I didn't realize that was the same character. I only saw the first one with Andrew Garfield, and I never saw the second one because I didn't like the first one very much at all. So I'm like, do I want to watch the second one?
No, the second one might be the only superhero movie I actually despise. I think it's a terrible, cynical mess of a movie. So I wouldn't bother.
I just thought the first one, I'm like, this is so, I think the lizard thing's just weird. I'm sorry. I'm like, this is strange. And
it's so dumb because it repeats the scene with Norman talking to himself in the mirror. They have an exact scene.
I don't even remember.
Where it's Dr. Connors. Yeah, he's arguing with himself. Like, I want to do the right thing. Like, but I'm not in control. It's like, did you just copy and pasted the scene? And that's it doesn't work. I know you wanted to compare them after we talk about these.
Yeah, I do. That can lead into it because I really like Andrew Garfield as an actor, but I remember watching that going, he doesn't feel like Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he could do Spider-Man because Spider-Man's a little cooler, but I'm like, he just doesn't seem dorky enough. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I know the character could be like open to interpretation, but just in my mind, I'm like, this doesn't feel like right because of of these movies. I'm like, this is how I think Peter should be. Mm-hmm. And then when you see the MCU movies, it's sort of back to that. He's got that but even like maybe a little over the top. It doesn't bother me, but he's very golly gee willikers, talk fast, so sweet and earnest. And I don't know if dorky's the right word. Nerdy, dorky and nerdy are not the same. But so yeah, it's very interesting when people are like, who's your Spider-Man? Who's your favorite Spider-Man? I'm always going to say Tobey Maguire because I love these movies more, and I just think they just handle both Peter Parker and Spider-Man just perfectly well. I only saw one Andrew Garfield movie, and then the Tom Holland ones. I think he's good in the role. I think he's great, but I don't think the movies are very good. They're not bad. They're not bad movies, but they're not great. I think Homecoming was okay. I saw it once and I haven't revisited it. It wasn't like as bad as the Amazing Spider-Man. It wasn't that bad, but I'm just like, was just sort of meh with it, It's like polar opposite character wise. I don't know MJ, Michelle, Ned. All she does the whole movie is be sarcastic, basically, and have these these pithy one-liners, and they're funny. She delivers them really well, but do I know anything about her? No, nothing about her family or anything. And Ned is very cute. He's very cute and sweet. And he's very likable, and I like him. But again, I don't know anything about him. So I just think they're very, very weak in that regard. I liked the No Way Home the best, but I liked it the best because it had all the Spider-Mans in it. Because all of a sudden I see Toby and I'm like, oh, Toby, oh, I missed you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it made me like Andrew Garfield's version of the character. I liked him way better in No Way Home. Yeah. I don't know. Did they improve the way he was? He seemed less, he seemed more the way he should be. Less like moody and too cool. Mopey. He seemed way more earnest. And so that was an improvement for sure. I I didn't know who the heck Jamie Foxx was, but I was still able to follow it for the most part. I vaguely remembered the lizard guy. It was better that I feel like it focused more on Doc Ock and Green Goblin, and because those are the stronger characters for sure. It's an enjoyable movie. I like it. Heartbreaking for Aunt May. That was really hard to watch. I do agree with you that it is a little weird seeing her character being this young, very young, kind of hip kind of character. But I don't complain about it too much. It's just, it's a little...
It's not bad. Yeah.
A little off, but it's whatever, it's not like bad, but it's not great. It's just sort of whatever. I like Marissa Tomei, she's good in everything. So,
right.
I love all the moments where with the three of them together, when they're trying to coordinate and fight, and the premise of it, I feel very mixed about, though. On one hand, because I'm like, a sensitive person, I understand the concept of like, we're just going to send them home to die. Do they deserve this? Maybe we can fix what's wrong with them. And I do like that. That's a very empathetic kind of thing. I think that's a nice thing. But at the same time, I'm like, this sort of undermines the other movies. And I'm like, does this change what happened? And they don't explain that at all. It's very weird to me that they do this. I'm like, what does that do to that universe then? If Doc Ock doesn't make that sacrifice, how does that change what happens after that? If all of a sudden, he's not the Green Goblin anymore, what does that do? Is Harry all of a sudden not going to be dead and be mad at Peter? It's very strange to me that it undermines all these stories. And I'm like, how do you explain all that away? And they do nothing with that. I know you can't really, I guess there's no time for that, but that's the part of it that is weird to me. It's hard to reconcile in my head and even in my heart, because it sort of ruins character arcs. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I enjoy No Way Home, but everything that I enjoy about it comes with an asterisk by it. And I'm just saying that as a preface. I apologize. It's going to be another long tangent, Marianne. So you can. That's okay. But I love that I'm able to talk about this with you and get this on record, because I've been wanting to write about this for a while and I just haven't figured out a way to do it. Maybe when you drop this episode, I'll do it as kind of maybe a support system. But I think it's interesting looking at these three Spider-Man iterations and understanding that they are very emblematic of what audiences wanted from these superhero movies at the time. I think when Spider-Man comes out in 2002, people weren't, like I said, they weren't ready for it to be sincere. This is the movie this is the comic book in movie form, right? I don't think people are ready for that. And the thing with Tobey Maguire, it's fun, Marianne, because Tobey Maguire will be my Spider-Man because that's the first Spider-Man movie that I watched, right? Christopher Reeve will be my Superman because that was the first Superman that I watched. It was very indelible for me. It's odd because Christian Bale is my favorite Batman. I think that's because they didn't nail what I love so much about my favorite comic book character until Christian Bale came along. I think that's why Christian Bale is going to be my guy. But so Peter Parker in these movies, what I love about him is he never catches a break. And to me, that's what Spider-Man is. It's all about that balance, that whenever I do the right thing, it ends up impacting me negatively. And that is good drama. That is good. That involves you in a great, fun way. And it again, it's frustrating because Peter never gets his way, but we're involved. We keep leaning forward in our chair while we're watching Tobey Maguire, Peter. I think that's just because Sam Raimi has an understanding of how these characters should work. It's all about character first, and everything, the spectacle will come from that. And again, that's why I think 3 suffers, because he had his hand forced by having this character that he wasn't familiar with, and you can tell, right? So I think Tobey Maguire Peter is the perfect Spider-Man because that's the comic. Like he was this geek and never got his way until he put on the mask, and then he was a stud. right? The problem, my couple of problems that I have with the Amazing Spider-Man movies is, number one, The Dark Knight comes out and makes $1 billion. And I think everybody took the wrong lesson from that. I think people are like, the reason The Dark Knight made $1 billion is because it was dark and it was moody. And I'm like, no, it's because that's who Batman is. Batman is moody, and it got Batman right. When you take Spider-Man and you make him this moody, dour, mopey, complainy, and everything shot dark, like the colors are all mute. Even the suit in the Amazing Spider-Man is muted. It doesn't pop. I saw a complaint just yesterday about, oh, look at the scene from Spider-Man 2 where he's on the train. Look how gray the buildings are. This is a gray movie. Everybody says it's gray, and I'm like everybody complains about the MCU being gray. Look at this. Look at everybody's precious Spider-Man 2 being gray. And I'm like, yeah, but that's what makes Spider-Man pop out even more, because he's this bright red standing out amongst the gray. Like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? What's with the YouTube mentality there?
That's a weird complaint.
Yeah. And so I just think that having everything be so dark and muted and mopey, and the thing with Peter too is, in these movies, Andrew Garfield Peter is, he's too good looking. He's too cool to be bullied. It's not even him that gets bullied in that first scene. Like, somebody else gets bullied and he stands up for them. And that's what gets Flash to kind of start picking on him, right? Andrew Garfield can't be nerdy enough where he has to be misunderstood. Like, he's riding around on his skateboard. He's so cool and he's into art and stuff like that. And it's like, to me, that's not Peter, but that's how people want to watch those movies. I think the people that grow up with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, that's who they think they are. They don't want to be nerdy. They don't want to be bullied. They want to be misunderstood. They want to be dark and mopey and just waiting for the moment. And I think his chemistry with Emma Stone is great, but they don't talk about anything. They don't talk about anything substantial. I still don't know who Gwen Stacy is. He's in love with her, and she's in love with him basically from the start. There's no build to that. When he becomes Spider-Man and he crawls in through his window, and they literally have a part where he's like, come on, like, let's really, I'm like, that's not Peter Parker. Peter Parker's not going to take advantage of her, even if he is in the Spider-Man outfit. You know what I mean? And then they try to be so realistic and so Dark Knight that when the second Amazing Spider, it's weird, it flips it, and he's a complete cartoon character. Everybody's a cartoon character in that second one. It totally doesn't match what's going on. The Jamie Foxx character is so underdeveloped that they have to have Hans Zimmer come in and give him an inner monologue on the soundtrack, because they don't have that in the movie. And again, the thing that really bugs me with Andrew Garfield Peter is he's an a-hole, right? I like the idea that the first one's about, his uncle gets killed and he becomes Spider-Man. But I like the idea that he becomes Spider-Man to take vengeance and trying to find the person, like a death wish kind of thing, right? And then eventually it gets to the point where he realizes on the bridge, again, another bridge scene where he's rescuing that kid from the car, where he's like, no, I'm Spider-Man. I can be a hero. I like that arc. But the whole movie, again, and this is what drives me crazy, we're going back to Spider-Man 1, right, is it's teaching him. And even I think my favorite character is the Dennis Leary, I think, as the dad. I love him. He has my favorite line in the movie where Peter, like, there's a lizard running around and Dennis Leary goes, do I look like the mayor of Tokyo? That's really funny. But he has a death scene where he figures out who Peter is, goes to his rescue and says, you can't be with Gwen, you're gonna get her in trouble. And then at the end, because they have that scene where she gets mad at him, Gwen gets mad at him, and the last scene is literally, she says, like, the teacher says, don't break promises you can't keep, and he leans in and goes, but those are the best ones, to kind of let Gwen know that, oh, they're gonna get. He takes that whole thing, the whole movie is about learning great power, great responsibility, and he throws it right out the window. It's like, forget that, I'm going to get you in trouble. And that's what leads her to being killed in the next one. Sorry to spoil that for you, but that's what happened.
No, I knew that happened.
So, go ahead. I've got a couple more.
I do think, I haven't seen them. I haven't seen the second one. I know she falls and he can't catch her in time, right?
Yeah, which is very comic. That's what for Spider-Man with the tram and with Mary Jane, that's what happens in the comic, except he can't save Gwen. So it's basically.
So I do think it was a nice touch in No Way Home where he's able to save MJ, and that's why he starts being emotional. It's like he's able to do what he couldn't do for Gwen. I mean, that's a nice moment. I appreciate that. And but I don't, you're saying all these things that happened in this movie. I have no memory of any of that. I just didn't retain it. I don't remember. I don't remember anything about Gwen Stacy except the way she looked. You know, the platinum blonde hair, and yeah, I remember their dynamic. But it's like, am I remembering that, or am I remembering Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone interviews or something? You know, because they were dating in real life and they have this such great rapport between them. It's like fuzzy. I don't remember. That is a really good point, though, about they took the wrong lesson from The Dark Knight, because all of a sudden then every single superhero had to be moody.
Like Superman.
Because they did it with Superman too. And I'm like watching this going, why is he like this? Why is this movie like this? Superman is a bright, hopeful character and universe, and it's not dark and depressing, and where Superman kills people without thought. I'm like, what the heck is this? And I remember thinking that at the time, going, well, I guess it's because of Batman. All the characters have to be like this now.
Christopher Nolan, yeah.
And it's not fair to blame those movies. It's just Hollywood always seems to learn the wrong lessons from things. It's like, oh, a movie about a board game. Let's make more board game movies. You know, a movie, Barbie made $1 million. Let's make more toy movies. You know, it's something stupid. When what made Barbie great was just how creative it was, not that it was about a toy, you know, and that it was well written. So, like I said, I think Tom Holland's really good in the part. I just think the movies could be better. I don't know what the new one's going to be like. It's not like I'm clamoring to see it, but that's how I just feel in general about the MCU now. They're like, they're fine. I enjoy them like more than most people have been, but they are not to the quality of previous ones. So,
well, the thing with the Tom Holland too, if we're talking about how he's emblematic of the audience, I think people that are growing up in the MCU, they don't want to be held accountable for anything. So you look at Spider-Man Home. I think the perfect Spider-Man was in Civil War. I love the way he's introduced. I love the dynamic he has with Robert Downey Jr. I love that he's pulled into this battle and he doesn't know what he's doing. He just knows that Iron Man wants his help, and so he's going to fight Captain America. I think it's all I was excited to see where Peter was going to go. Like, oh, this is fun. Like, this is a great new, they don't have to do the origin. It literally has a part where that's the other thing too with the Garfield Spider-Man, is I think the first Spider-Man does everything close to perfect, that they have to thesaurus a lot of stuff. Uncle Ben, Martin Sheen, who's great, he can't even say with great power comes great responsibility. He has to go on this giant monologue. When you're not responsible, you don't have the power, and that's the responsibility. I'm like, whoa, you really had to run in circles why can't you just say it, right? So I love that in Civil War he just says, if you have this power, you should do the right thing with it. He says it in a way that's, he's trying to figure this out for himself, right? So when it comes to Spider-Man Homecoming, which I think is a fun movie, I don't mind the idea that it tries to emulate like a John Hughes rom-com or a teen movie from the 80s, right? I just have a problem with the Tom Holland character never being called on the carpet for anything that he does, right? He goes to a party with Ned. He leaves Ned in the lurch. Ned is basically being bullied by himself. The next time he sees Ned, what does Ned say? Is Ned mad at him? No, Ned's like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll just move on, right? There's no consequence there. There's a scene where the Tom Holland Peter like wrecks the deli. Like we've seen Mr. Delmar in the deli, right? He stops the Avengers or whatever. They wreck the deli, but the Mr. Delmar's fine. He's ruined his livelihood, right? That deli is destroyed. No consequence. Delmar's is fine. The cat is safe. They never bring it up again. I think they bring it up in a later movie. The thing that drives me absolutely up the wall is when they go to Washington and he leaves all his friends behind, right? Actually, two things that drive me up the wall. But it's okay. Like he literally goes home and Aunt May is livid with him. She's so upset. She's physically shaking. He's like, you disappear. You're not telling me what's going on. And then all he has to do is start crying a little bit. Oh, I got kicked out of the Tony Stark. And she forgives him. I'm like, what? This is how you parent? He literally disappeared and almost got his friends killed. And all he gets is detention. And even the detention, he's able to walk out of it. Even the teacher says, you're a good kid, just do better, right? And he does the thing, again, Michael Keaton's great, but he ruins I can't even remember the girl's name that he's in love with. He ruins their lives because he brings down the Keaton character. And again, he goes to her. She is so upset because he left her at the party. But what happens? She forgives him immediately, says, it's okay. I hope whatever's going on with you works out. It's like, why is Tony Stark, that's so maddening. Why is Tony Stark the only character who's calling Peter Parker on the carpet? The most irresponsible character in the MCU is telling Peter that he needs to step up and stop being so irresponsible. That drove me crazy. And it's the same thing. Homecoming ends with Aunt May, great line, how she goes, what the, how she finds out that he's Spider-Man. And it's setting it up. Oh, this will be great. We're going to be able to see in the next movie how she deals. It's going to be about how does she deal with him being Spider-Man? Is she going to let him do this? Like all this stuff. Is that what happens? No, the beginning of Far From Home, she's completely okay with it and she's using it to make money. That's my problem with the MCU is I think they really just, all the drama that we've talked about in the first 3 Spider-Man movies, Marianne, they skip through it. They don't deal with any of it because it's too hard. People don't want to have to deal with that. And again, I think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite comic book movie, period. I just think it gets what comic books are. I think Sam Raimi, his fluid camera work is so silly and so over the top that it kind of mimics what we imagine when we're reading comic books. I think that's why it nails that. But Into the Spider-Verse, from the Ben-Day dots to the way that you see captions, the bubbles, the thought bubbles, I just think everything is so perfect. And it's with the multiverse stuff, it's so well done because you have the villain that pulls in his family and to have them alive, but it's wrecking everything. And all these Peter Parkers and different Spider-Men are coming in and they're having to reckon with their worlds being torn apart. It works so well. And in Far From Home, the reason that they're able to do it is because Doctor Strange suddenly is a moron and he can't handle the powers that he's doing, the spells that he does. Peter's a moron and he interrupts Doctor Strange in the middle of a spell, and that's what starts this whole thing. I agree with you, like you don't know what world are they being pulled from because they're very vague about a lot of it. But it's like the timey-wimey stuff in that movie is so lazy just to get the 3 Spider-Men to show up. And I love Andrew Garfield. He's so sincere. He doesn't talk with a weird New York accent like he uses in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. He's very natural and he's cool. He's trying. He knows that he's failed, right? You have Tobey Maguire that comes in, and I love their dynamic, how Tobey Peter, he's got it all settled. He's figured it out. He's the adult Spider-Man, right? And then you have the Holland character who's still learning and is able to learn from that. It's silly that you have to get to the 3rd movie when Aunt May is dying for consequences to actually start taking shape. The middle of the 3rd movie, Marianne, is where that starts to happen, where his choices have consequences. And that's when I perked up in No Way Home. I think it's an ugly, weird, it's a very COVID movie. Like Thomas Hayden Church wasn't there. They had to record him remotely. The guy that plays Lizard, he had to be recorded remotely. They were
is that
never
why
on
it
set
looks
with
weird?
each other. Yeah. So it's a very COVID. The movie's very ugly. The scene where all the Peters meet each other takes place in a living room, and it's done with sitcom staging where whenever anybody speaks a line, the camera's on them. The camera is never on somebody when they're not talking. And so it's very sitcom-y, which is fine, but you're looking at the 3 Spider-Man movies that are very cinematic and very dynamic and look so rich. And then you have a sitcom scene, which is the MCU. It just doesn't work. And the reason I say it's an asterisk is I love all 3 of them, but when they're having that conversation, why are they only talking about the movies that they've been in? I know Peter's maybe Toby Peter's 20 years older. Has he not fought any villains in the meantime? The last villain he fought was Venom. Why does Andrew Garfield Spider-Man only talk about the Rhino? Why does he only deal with you know what I mean? It's like these characters have been preserved in amber and then they've been pulled out. It's just very, very strange.
Well, you need the recognition that things that people know,
Yeah,
sort of
but
thing,
it doesn't work for drama. It's very silly. When Andrew Garfield catches the MJ, sure, it's great, but I'm like, has he not caught anybody in the 20 or 10 years since we last saw him? You know what I mean? Like, why are we doing this narrative shortcoming all the time with this MCU, especially in Spider-Man? We've seen Raimi do it so well and so, like I said, so rich and supple and all this stuff, and then you just get lazy with these movies. Even though I love them together and I love their dynamic and that scene where they do the swinging together, and I get more excited about that than I got during the Endgame scene when everybody's teaming up together. I just thought that was so cool. And then they're so supportive of each other. I think it's so funny when Doctor Strange comes in and he's like, I've been in the Grand Canyon for 3 days or something like that. And then Andrew Garfield Peter is like, you went to the Grand Canyon, and Maguire goes, he could have used your help. Or maybe I just think it's so funny. They have such a good dynamic. I think to the point where I think there's shots of Garfield and Maguire hanging out and going to see movies together and plays because they got along so well. I really like that. It's just weird that they finally, the Peter that I love and I grew up with is the Peter that I recognize in the last half of No Way Home. It's very strange. And you're right. The MJ character is just there to support him when he needs support. I don't think they get in any arguments. Maybe I just can't remember Far From Home. It's just, and Ned is always supportive. There's no drama to any of this stuff. It's just very lightweight.
Yeah, and again, they don't have fights. It's like there's something wrong with these characters. They're nice people, and they're likable, but they're one-dimensional.
And
there's they have nice chemistry, obviously, because they're together in real life, so you could feel chemistry. But that's
but Maguire and Dunst were dating at the time too, and their characters still rule.
All three. It's funny. All three of the Spider-Man movies, everyone dated.
Right. I just think when you make everybody nice, like you look at the Sam Raimi, especially the first two, where everybody kind of treats Peter Parker and Spider-Man offhandedly, but then you have them coming to his rescue at certain points. That's catharsis. These people are alive. I just think the MCU people, the background characters, don't matter. They don't have any personality.
It's true. And the MCU is very sometimes they do it really well with characters, other times no. Yeah. It just depends on who's writing the script, who's directing the movie, who that's what it is. So, and then there's so many freaking movies that it is. I do like you're right, the dynamic between Tony Stark and Peter is maybe the best because he's honest with him, and he calls him out, and so that moment in Infinity War is good. It's heartbreaking, but it's really well done because obviously Tom Holland did a good job acting. I think they told him just something like a vague thing, and he just sort of went with what he was feeling. Like it wasn't scripted everything he was supposed to say and do. So kudos to him. He did a good job with that. But I mean, I love No Way Home, but other than that, he's best in non-Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Why is Tony Stark the only character that's calling Peter on the carpet? Why can't Aunt May be a mom or a parent? It's maddening. Again, that's being a parent myself.
Though Tony Stark's a fantastic character, so he's a very well written character, well acted character. So,
but the other characters don't get any agency. You know what I mean? They don't give the equal agency to everybody else.
Yeah, I agree.
So, but I just think Tom Holland and Peter needs to.
I don't want to totally rag on him, but the Raimi ones are the superior ones. I mean, in every way, especially visually. I mean, so much more beautiful to look at and dynamic and interesting than the other Spider-Man movies. So.
Right. Well, we wanted to mention the cinematographers, right? You have Don Burgess.
Oh yes, I wrote them down. The first one, his name is Don Burgess. And then 2 and 3, it's the same person. His name's Bill Pope.
So Don Burgess was Zemeckis' guy. He did Forrest Gump and he did Contact, which I think is a very interesting movie to look at. And then Bill Pope did The Matrix. So they've got a very good.
Those are cool looking. Yeah.
So even though I think Bill Pope, it's more cinematic in the second two, I think Don Burgess, again, they created the Spidey cam, so I can't fault it for that. They set the standard. So yeah,
and that's amazing. Yeah,
looks like a comic book. Those three.
Is there anything else you wanted to say? I do want to say one thing. I forgot to say it earlier. I love the inside joke in Spider-Man 3 where Aunt May's talking about Uncle Ben and how good he looked in a swimsuit. That's a cute little Gidget reference for those who are in the know. I thought that was really cute. But anything else you wanted to like end with?
I think the Danny Elfman score is kind of anonymous. Like I don't know. Well, it's great, but I don't know. I can't hum it in my head. Like I can't. Like I have the Superman theme. I can do that for you. You know what I mean? I can do the Batman theme, Danny Elfman's Batman theme, but I can't do Danny Elfman's Spider-Man theme in my head. Like just
I can hear it in my head.
You can? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't love the scores it doesn't have as much personality as like say Elfman's Batman score has, but it's a good support system, I guess. It's just I don't
it's like the overall score is good, but the main theme I think is just really strong that you hear in the credits. I can hear that in my head for sure. And we mentioned it a little bit, but I love the cohesion with the credits. How the first one, it's just the spider webs, and then the second one brings in, it's like a recap of the first movie with that amazing artwork, and then the third one does the same thing. It's not art anymore; it's just scenes. But I love that cohesion between 1, 2, and 3 as far as the credits. I thought that was really cool. I'm someone who loves a good opening or closing credit scene with that. I love it when filmmakers go that extra mile with something.
Yeah,
that's something I really, really, really appreciate in any movie.
My favorite credits of all time is the Superman opening credits, how it's in space and everything feels epic, and you're devoting all your time to listening to John Williams' score. Just we don't get a lot of good opening credit sequences anymore. I think we just want to dive into the action, and sometimes movies don't even show the title until the very end. Like the Dark Knight trilogy doesn't even tell you what the name of the movie is until the very last, the first end credit card.
I don't remember. Yeah.
The
MCU does end credit. They do some pretty cool end credits, but they don't do the opening ones. Some of them are really good. I love the Captain America patriotic artwork and stuff. That's really cool. But not to end on a different movie, but But
it's good because Captain America, like I said, it captures the golly gee, not just of the Spider-Man movies, but of the Rocketeer, right? Same director, Joe Johnston. So I love that has personality of the a different time. I think that's great. It helps it stand out from the rest of the MCU films.
Well, it's true. It's like when I think about my favorite movies like this, they are the ones that are the most earnest, the most sincere, and have very well developed characters. So Spider-Man, Rocketeer, Captain America, they're all in great directing, very dynamic, interesting visuals, all that sort of thing. So all those have something in common. So but that's gonna do it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. Go subscribe to Darin's 2 channels. He has Nostalgia Cast and Back to Bluey, which are great. I recently watched your My Best Friend's Wedding video, and that was great.
With Natasha. Yeah, good.
Favorite movies. I hope everyone enjoyed listening to this. If you did, please leave a comment and let us know your thoughts on all the Spider-Man movies. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. But I hope everyone has a beautiful, beautiful day and stay nerdy. Take care. Bye.